right, let's see if we get this working. I don't have my my usual clip over here for recording. So hopefully I get this straight. And it's on me. All right, let's see if I can organize this a little bit. All right, let me know how everybody is doing out there, where you're from. And if we have any questions, we'll see if we can get this, make sure this doesn't fall down over here. All right, that looks okay. It's not going to be perfect, unfortunately, but that's part of life. Anyway, all right, let's see if that works. It's a little bit crooked, but yeah. All right, well, I am Drew Batcher, the founder of EnglishAnyone.com, and in this video, we're going to talk about the 3 stages of fluency and why most people get stuck and where most people get stuck. So I'll try to keep this video short. As usual, I've been doing these lately where I have maybe the first 15 minutes or so of the video I'm talking about the kind of lesson or topic. And then if you have any questions, we can cover those as well. So let's get right into it. Dan says, Happy Chinese New Year. Yes, I think we have, so here in Nagasaki, where I live, we will be having the Lantern Festival very soon. Let's see if I can move this over. Actually, it's pretty good. This isn't going to be perfect, but it should be okay. All right, so we're going to talk about the 3 stages of fluency. So if you're at my channel, if you're watching my videos, it's because you want to improve your English. You already know a lot of English, but you want to speak fluently. So that's what we're going to talk about. We usually talk about this, but I want to get, I thought this was a really great explanation of it. I did this video on Instagram last week, I think, and people really enjoyed it. So I thought I would do it here as well. All right, so we're going to start very simply. I'm going to cover at first the 3 stages of fluency, and then I'll talk about what this means and how it kind of really changes the way people think about learning. So number 1, it's going to be very simple. We're just talking about exposure. Now to expose, to be exposed to something means like if I'm outside and I'm getting exposed to the sun, I'm not covered, there's nothing blocking me, something like that. So if I have a little person here, and here's the sun, so the sun is hitting me, I'm exposed to the sun. But if I put some sunscreen on my face, or I have a wall or something like that that's blocking this, now I am not exposed. So the basic idea of exposure means that you're hearing the language, you're understanding something, maybe you read it, but at a very low, simple level. Maybe you don't even understand, it's not even conscious. Someone asked me, what is my Instagram account? It's the same name, English Anyone. So being, again, exposed means that you're getting access or some kind of information is coming to you. You could be talking with a friend and maybe you hear something else, but it's not even conscious. So the very basic level, really going from 0 to 1 over here is just hearing that information, getting it somehow. You could be reading it or hearing it in some way. All right, so that's exposure. So the second level is awareness. And to be aware of something means you're now conscious of it and you understand, okay, I'm hearing something, I can recognize that information. You can recognize that information. And this is actually, it's very, very simple. I'll talk about the 3rd step in just a moment. But awareness is where most people get stuck. So they understand a lot of English. Certainly the people I help, they understand a lot of English. They know a lot of English. They can watch these videos of me talking. It's nice and clear. You can understand, you can follow what I'm saying. But trying to get to the 3rd level up here, which is ownership. Ownership. Now I call it ownership because you really feel in control of the language. This is not about like only recognizing it or understanding the language. This is really where you're at the level where you feel very confident because you know the language so well. Now, I'll cover these a bit more in detail if people would like to know more, but I think it will be easier if I compare two different learners and explain a few different things about this. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'll keep my eye on the chat. So if we can imagine two different learners over here, we'll call this the ESL student. So that's English as a second language. This is how most people are learning English, and that just means they're learning English through their native language. Okay, so English as a second language. And then we have a native speaker, or someone who, the way I teach English as a first language. So EFL, meaning English as a first language. Now, what does that mean? It means you're learning everything all in English, you understand everything in English, and we're not trying to teach you through your first language or your native language. So you want to understand everything directly. And yes, this is possible to do. It's very easy to do when you stop trying to translate and really it's just basically bad lessons that stop people from understanding like a native. So if we look at exposure for the ESL student, usually this means you're getting some kind of translation or a definition or a word list, or we will explain a grammar rule, something like that, the traditional, typical kind of lessons you would get in an English classroom. But an EFL student is really just trying to get very basic, simple information for their level. So as long as they can understand something all in English, then they're learning it all in English and it's understandable. But again, exposure, if we're just going to start from absolute zero, so you don't know anything at all, we imagine some new word or phrase that you're learning, you've not heard this at all, and then as soon as you hear it for the first time, this is the exposure level. So you've come into contact, you've heard that thing somewhere, you're being exposed to the language. Now, as you hear that a few times, you'll learn something, maybe you'll hear it again from different people, or you're trying to study it more in an ESL classroom or that kind of studying environment, you develop awareness. Now, I think this is a little bit easier if I give you an example. This is my bottle of water over here. And I want you to take a look up here. So these are kanji. So these are the borrowed Chinese characters that make up, this is 1/3 actually, of the written language of Japanese. So it's kind of it's a little bit trickier than something like English for the written part. English is a little bit trickier for different reasons. But just looking at like this character right here. Now, if you look at that, you've just been exposed to some Japanese. If you've never seen that or you don't know Japanese, you've probably seen some Chinese characters or Japanese or Korean or anything like even characters in a different language, you've probably seen them before. But this doesn't mean it's like clear and easy for you to understand. All right. So usually what happens is because the language is not easy to understand for people, they're learning it as a second language, and it really makes it just easier if they use translations and we're trying to understand something. But looking at this character, just this one right here, if I asked you to draw that character, you probably wouldn't be able to do it very well. This is a very stylized way of looking at this, and it's just like, okay, like what does that character even mean? What is that supposed to look like? I'll draw it for you up here, just so you can compare the difference between these two things. But usually when young children are learning Japanese, they're not beginning with something like this. They get exposed to something like this because they might see this bottle somewhere, or their parents might have something like that. But the actual character is this. Now it looks pretty simple. And when you look at it like this, it's a lot more clear than looking at something like that. So you can compare like this one over here with this one over here. And again, that's a stylized version of the character. But when you're going from exposure to awareness, like, okay, now we have a better idea of what that character means. All right. So at each stage of learning, we're learning a little bit more. But where we get this step right here, moving from awareness to ownership, this is where most people get stuck. And most people, it's because they don't really understand something well enough to use it fluently. All right. It's a little bit tricky to explain, but it's easier if I just give you another example. So let's say you're a native English-speaking child and you're learning English for the first time, and you hear the word run. So we begin With from 0 to 1, we learn the word run. I'll put this in the EFL because we're learning English as a first language. This is just a simple example for you. So we begin with the word run. And when we go from 0 to exposure, maybe you hear it somewhere or you see it written somewhere. It doesn't matter, but you've been exposed to the language. So that's the first thing. And so you've learned the word run, you've heard it, maybe you don't quite understand it, but as soon as you have that level of awareness where you think, okay, I made the connection between the word run, so the sound, and the physical action of somebody running, okay? So we begin with somebody running, we have the awareness level where we get recognition, we understand something, okay, when someone says run, I understand what they're talking about. But you really get to the ownership level. Run is a simple example, but you get to the ownership level of that when you start getting more examples of run. So you might have water that's running. So if I turn on the faucet in my room and I have water coming through that, and the child hears, oh, the water is running. Or they hear the toilet is running. The toilet is running. So the toilet maybe like it's not stopping properly. You flush the toilet and the water continues to flow through it. We say the toilet is running. The toilet is running. And so the child thinks, wait a minute, the toilet isn't like, it's not running anywhere. It's not physically going. And so they've broadened and deepened their understanding of the word run. All right. And so as they hear this more and more, it's at first down here just something they hear, some words, maybe they don't understand exactly what it means. Then we move to awareness where they have, okay, they understand it's kind of like motion. Maybe I'm running with my legs or something like that. And then we go to the ownership level where they start hearing more and more examples of that thing. And that's where they really feel confident and comfortable using the word. Okay, so I hear like the toilet is running, or the water is running, the river is running, or I might hear a machine, like an engine is running, so something like a fan is running. So all those examples we get, it's a much deeper understanding of the word run rather than just hearing one word and trying to get a translation of it from a different language, all right? So it's much different. Like if I were to translate this into Japanese as like a basic example, it would just be like hashiru, to run, all right? But that's only like, if I'm thinking, okay, let me run with my feet and I want to understand that, but I'm not really going deeper into the Japanese language of understanding like that particular verb, or if there are other connections with other words or other deeper meanings. So usually what happens with learners is they will hear something one time, or they will hear it maybe like a few times, but they never really get to that ownership level because they never really feel confident about the definition or the understanding of a word. All right. So looking at this basic example, I'll check back comments in just a moment, but I wanted to explain 3 quick things about this. All right. So very simply, you'll notice that this is all about understanding and confidence. All right, so this whole process here, as we move up, we're increasing in confidence and understanding. Pardon my sloppy writing here. But the point here is that as we go from 0 to 3, and it's really that simple. So we can go from 0 to exposure, to awareness, to ownership actually very quickly, depending on how well you learn something. So if you learn something and you understand it very well, you can move to ownership. That's where you get that, what I call the aha moment, where you feel like you really know something very well. Aha, I got it. Okay? And so as you work through these, what we're really trying to do is improve your understanding and build your confidence, and there's nothing here about speech. Okay? Isn't that interesting? So we're not talking about speaking at all. There's nothing where you're trying to repeat phrases or say something or be in a conversation where you need to shadow or repeat back or anything like that. The whole point is that you become a good speaker as your understanding improves. And if you don't get to the ownership level, this is where you get stuck just listening to people. You can probably watch me or some TED Talk videos or even some movies, but you will struggle in a conversation because you never really feel 100% confident about the vocabulary that you know. And this could be vocabulary or grammar or pronunciation. All of these different things are connected. So the point is not to try to repeat something again and again until you understand it. You don't develop further understanding just by repeating something. You need to get further examples of something and different examples until you really get a strong understanding of something. So this is where you need naturally varied review. Again, pardon my writing. I'm trying to go through this very quickly here. So we're about 15 minutes in. So again, we go from 0 to 1, exposure. 1 to 2 is awareness, where we can recognize things. It's not like we just heard something. We can actually recognize that. Like, oh yeah, I know that. But can you write it? So if I cover it up and I say, hey, can you write that kanji again? You would probably not be able to do that. So you're not at the level of ownership yet. All right? So naturally varied review is where we're getting lots of different examples and we're really trying to understand something like this. Okay? So we really want to get you to the ownership level, and I really want to make this point very clear that this is not about speaking practice. Fluency is not about speaking practice, it's about how well you understand the language. And when you get to the ownership level, that's where you really understand it. Okay? So the first thing, it's about confidence and understanding. The second thing, next thing is very, very important about this, is that this is a thing that develops word by word. So as you improve your understanding or your confidence by going through these 3 steps, these are things that you do word by word. So you don't get fluent in the whole language, you get fluent in individual words and phrases as you're learning. Okay, so you're going through and improving your understanding of words and phrases. So I want to make clear that when people think about getting fluent in English, what they really mean is that they're getting fluent in some words and phrases. All right. So you might be, let's say you have like 10 words in your vocabulary, like a very simple vocabulary. You have 10 words, and you might have a different level of fluency for each one of those words. So some things that you talk about often, maybe you have ownership of that. So you've got ownership of this and this word, but maybe you've only heard this one time. You only have like exposure level to this one, and maybe just like awareness level. Like you could recognize some words, but you can't use them. You don't feel confident about their pronunciation or something like that. All right. But the point is, you don't get fluent in the language. You get fluent in individual words and phrases as you learn them. And the goal here is not to hear something or to translate it as a second language. Really, the point is to get as a first language going through these steps. All right? So we've got the first thing, confidence and understanding. The second thing is that you're going through each one of these about particular words and phrases. So it's not about learning the whole language. You want to get fluent in particular words and phrases and grammar and pronunciation like that. And hopefully this is making sense. It sounds like a complicated idea, but really the main point is that this is about understanding the language really well. So people who know the language really well can speak the language really well. All right? So if you go through these different steps, this is how you will actually become a fluent speaker very quickly. All right, let me take a moment here, go back and see if I missed anything. Let's see. Okay. All right, I'll go back through the comments in a second. The last thing I'll mention about this is that you can actually go through these steps very quickly, so you could potentially get fluent in some words or phrases as you learn them in like 1 minute. So you could go from 0, so not hearing something ever before, going from 0 to ownership of the language in 1 minute if you heard something and understood it very quickly. All right? So the reason most people get stuck is they're getting exposure at the kind of ESL level where they're learning something and they're not really understanding it very well because they're learning it through their native language. They're getting translations and definitions. And even if they are learning it in English, they don't really understand it like a native understands the language. So the point is to move up through these different phases or these steps, and that's how we get to fluency. All right. Now I want to make sure everybody understands this. So let me go back and check comments. Looks like we got quite a few of them here. All right. So let's see. What about... what's about assimil method? I don't know what that is. What is your... Okay, I answered that already. Hi, from Brazil. My level of understanding drops down when the sound is too low. However, when it's louder, I can understand much better. Do you think this is an issue? Well, that's just a hearing issue, Roger. That's not about... I mean, I'm guessing it's a hearing issue. I mean, even if I can't hear somebody clearly, then in the same way, if I'm learning Japanese and I don't hear something clearly, then I'm not going to understand it. So that's where we go. Like, this process can take a long time for individual words and phrases if you don't really understand something. So an example I think I gave in the that Instagram video is there's a toilet near my house at the train station. So there's a train station near my house. And when I go in there, I hear an announcement for the toilet. I understand what the announcement is saying. It's like, hey, here's a toilet, anybody can use it. But I couldn't quite hear some of the language. So I was stuck at like exposure, but I didn't get to the understanding part of that, where it's like, I actually understand and hear what they're saying. And so I just asked my wife. I said, hey, like, what are they saying? And she said, oh, they're saying this. And then I could hear it clearly. And now, okay, I can move up to the ownership level where I'm getting that, like hearing that phrase or that word again and again in different ways. And now I feel confident using it. But again, I could be stuck at this level here, like I'm getting exposed to something for like 5 months or 2 years, but I don't actually understand what it's saying like well enough to get kind of awareness of it. And I certainly don't have ownership of that where I could use it myself. But again, the point here is that you could go from zero to exposure to awareness to ownership in a few minutes or less, depending on how well you learn, all right? But you move through this process much faster if you're learning English as a first language rather than learning English as a second language, all right? But yeah, you have to make sure you can hear and understand what people are saying. All right, next question. I live in Canada and my accent is an issue for me. I am from Mexico. I learned the most when I got the native Canadian friend. Yeah, so again, when you get someone who is able to give you lots of input, you're going to improve a lot more when you understand something, and you're getting naturally varied review from people. So you're not hearing something just one time, you're hearing something again and again, and usually in different ways from different people. So that's the same way natives learn, and this is how, again, you should be learning English as a first language rather than a second language. All right, looks like people just talking with each other. Good to see that. Just keep practicing on your accent. Oh, okay, all right, make sure that... Man, I just love English, but I spent more time practicing listening than speaking. I'm going to change that. No. The point is to actually understand. So I don't spend time like practicing my Japanese by speaking it. I practice my Japanese by getting many, many more examples. Okay, this is a big difference in how people learn. The reason people think that they need to have lots of speaking practice when they're learning is because they don't really understand what they're saying. I know it sounds weird, but if you don't really understand something, you feel like you have to just keep repeating it again and again until you somehow get fluent. But that's not really how fluency works. It's just repeating something and continuing to get awareness. But you get fluency, you get ownership. So ownership is just my word for fluency because it's an easier way to understand that you really feel confident using something, all right? So there's nothing about this process that means you need to speak in order to get fluent, all right? I know that it's like the opposite of everything you hear from pretty much every teacher. They will say, well, you got to speak to get fluent. But if you're at these stages if you get exposure but you don't really understand what you're saying, like sometimes even in your native language, maybe you will hear a song on the radio and you think the song is saying one thing, but it's actually not saying that. And so you might repeat that, but you're saying the wrong thing. And this happens to English speakers as well. So some new English song, like even some, some common songs that people don't know the actual lyrics to those songs. But once you understand what it is, you move to ownership when you really feel confident about using that. All right. Please, could you say that again? Thanks. All right. Hopefully, let me go back. Let me go back and make sure these are clear. But again, I want to make it clear for everybody that if you just try to expose yourself to more English, that's not going to get you fluent. All right. Just being exposed to the language is not going to make you a fluent speaker. You need to be exposed to it enough to get to the ownership level of fluency. That's where you really feel confident about using the language. All right, lots of good questions coming up here. Let's see. All right. See the chat like scrolls back on me. Okay, here we go. All right, let's see here. So I'm gonna try to hold the chat here, make sure it doesn't scroll past me. I think I am speaking too fast. People told me to speak slowly. Well, if you can understand people and they can understand you, maybe some people might think you're speaking quickly, but that's probably a good thing if you can use the language correctly and you're speaking well. But often, some people speak quickly, especially in bigger cities, people will speak faster. I worry more about my pronunciation than my accent. My accent is my ID, but pronunciation is absolutely important. Rogerio, yes, that's correct. So you will have lots of different accents in the same way that people, even in the United States, have different accents. And you might hear people with a different dialect from Georgia or Chicago, where I'm from, or New York or Boston. But the accent and the pronunciation, you're correct, are two different things. And so if you want to be, again, getting to this highest level up here, this is where you've heard something from so many different people that you really feel confident about how to pronounce it, all right? So your pronunciation in your native language is really it's just the influence of all the different people in your life, so your parents or friends or other people in your community. And as you hear all those examples, that's where you develop your own unique way of speaking. So you have an accent that's similar to those other people, but it's because you've heard all of those different examples. All right, let's see. So I recommend an app called Duolingo. Yeah, I'm actually not a fan of Duolingo. The reason I'm not is like the basic idea of trying to learn through anything other than learning as a first language, I think, is a waste of time for people who want to speak. There are lots of ways to learn English, but if you actually want to speak, English as a first language is a way to do it. All right, so I used to speak very fast too. Yeah, so if you find you're making mistakes because you speak quickly, then you should slow down. I can't understand local British, says Rasul. People here in the UK, though I completely understand you. Even you have an American accent, strange. I always listen to them, but it's very difficult to catch them. So I'm being intentionally easier to understand. So I really want to make it clear. I want to get people like from exposure to awareness very quickly. So I'm always trying to speak more quickly, or not necessarily quickly, but I want to speak clearly to make sure people can follow me. Pardon me as we get another siren coming this way. But when you move through these different steps, the point is to understand as easily as possible. And so usually what I do, like for the lessons, especially in Fluent for Life, if you only listen to me, you will not get to the fluent level because you need really exposure to lots of different native speakers. You can't only listen to one easy to understand teacher. You need to get to the level where the real speakers are at. So regular people speaking in the UK, they're going to be speaking faster. They've got conversational speech. They're going to have accents that are different or difficult to understand. So that's why it's easier to understand me in these kinds of lessons. But what I do is I help people work through these stages in Fluent for Life. So we want to get people to understand, but not just understand teachers. We want you to understand natives as well. It's just a matter of time when you put effort into it. Like I said, just keep practicing and listen as much as you can. Okay, so Jonathan says that. Yes, again, like I want to be very clear for people that the point is not just to like do something a lot. If it's not working for you, don't do more of it, and don't think like, well, we got to just continue doing more of this thing that's not really working. The point is actually to be very efficient with your language learning, and this means you're going through something without wasting a lot of time. So me, with that toilet example I gave before, when you're learning something and you don't understand it very well, or you're trying to repeat something but you're not pronouncing it quickly or correctly, then there's no point in trying to go through that process. So don't just repeat doing something because like practice makes perfect or whatever. It's when you have to understand something, and the understanding is much faster if you have like, you know, good teaching and you can go through something and really understand the process. Let's see. All right. So I don't know. All right. So Molode. What about the assimil? I don't know what that is. You keep posting that comment though. Basically, for learning any language, there is only learning as a first language. That's it. I mean, that's if you want to speak, that's it. That's the only thing you have to do. And what's great about it is it's really just about understanding. It's not about you trying to repeat anything or speak after people. It's just how well you understand the language. And as you work up through these different phases, once you get to ownership, speaking comes out automatically. So you don't have to sit and try to repeat phrases in your car or anything like that. Yeah, so if you're trying to learn languages with a book, you're probably wasting your time. You need to hear. It's just like you don't give a book to young children to learn the language. You help them understand the language. That's how it works. Let's see. Nice to have you live again. Yeah, I've been doing these lives lately. I think people don't get notified though. I don't know why YouTube isn't telling people. I have no idea. But usually about weekly. So if you check my YouTube channel, look at the live videos, you will see more of those recently. Adrian says, I got a job 3 months ago in a call center in English, and after 1 month I quit, and I am feeling that I am losing some skills, and now I'm afraid to apply again to the same place or other places. So Adrian, I would focus on understanding, and again, you can tell exactly where you are on this scale for any particular words or phrases. And if you don't understand what people are saying, it's very difficult to just join a call center and be really good at communicating. So it takes a while, unless you have really good teaching, to make sure you understand the vocabulary and you can use it fluently. But the goal is, remember that individual words and phrases, you might be good at some things, you might have ownership of some words and phrases, like you can use them very well, but others you cannot. All right, Roger says you're welcome. All right, let's see here. And something happens to me, something I have to use headphones to understand better movies or short videos. When I don't use headphones, I tend to fail in listening a little bit. Yeah, it just means it's easier for you to hear and understand. So we're going from exposure to awareness there. Please, can you say again, 1 is 2 is 3 is thanks. I'll go over a review after I go through these. I can understand very well, but I get stuck when I speak. Why? It's like forget vocabularies, it's stress how to overcome it. That's this. So you're stuck at this level. This is where most people get stuck. They get stuck at the awareness level of speaking. So they can understand people, but they haven't had enough naturally varied review. I want to highlight this because it's so important. Naturally varied review. The point when you're learning a language is not to learn a word or phrase and repeat it a bunch of times. That's not how you get fluent. You get fluent by learning a situation, like what people say in a situation, and then you hear lots of different examples of that thing. So you want to hear not just me say something, you want to hear other natives say the same thing and hear other things that people might say. So if I'm really hot, I could say, man, it's crazy hot over here. It's crazy hot. Or I could say, oh, it's hotter than hell. Or I could say, oh, it's like, it's just like extremely hot. So there are different ways I can say that. And if you're only trying to learn one way of saying something, then you will not understand when natives are communicating in real conversations. All right, so it's a completely different way. The ESL way will help you learn some things, but it will get you stuck at the awareness level. You really need to have the English as a first language approach. That's where you're really starting to understand, and that's where you get to the ownership level. All right. Okay, so thank you. But do you still need your wife to go to ownership? But you still need your wife to go to ownership. No, that's not true. My wife actually is like, she's a pretty bad teacher. So she's not very good at explaining, some things to me, even in Japanese if I need an explanation. And like occasionally I will ask her, but she will usually say, I'm busy. Like, she's got 2 kids to take care of. And so this is not about like me, like the secret ingredient is my wife or anything. I got fluent even before I met my wife. So I was learning things, again, getting fluent in individual words and phrases even before I met her. And so it's nice if you can have someone to teach, but a lot of people can be married. I know plenty of foreign men out here who are married to Japanese women and they still can't speak. So even after many years, it's not about having a Japanese boyfriend or girlfriend, or in your case, like an English-speaking girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever. The point is, can you understand the language or not? That's really it. All right. Let's see. So awesome class. Let my like. I'm glad to hear it. Thank you, Rogero. Don't forget to hit the like button. Yes. Yeah. I don't know why. Yeah, YouTube doesn't like send my videos out, so very few people see them. I guess I'm not that for learning English on YouTube. This is like a very, I don't know. It's like a smaller number of people who are interested in this kind of information. Most people just want to hear more words and phrases at the awareness level, but then they get stuck. So my video is for people who have already tried to learn like a bunch of words and phrases on YouTube, but they still can't speak. That's because they're at the awareness level. Usually they forget things and they can kind of hear them. They can recognize them in a conversation or a movie, but they don't feel comfortable like really understanding that. So Isela says, at the beginning it was very hard for me to read books. Now after 4 books, I lost the, you mean you lost the fear. I can read faster and put my ideas. Yes. So again, like you're still getting naturally varied review as you continue to go through different books. Hazel says, good evening. Teacher Rogerio, good. I don't know if that's somebody if Rogerio is a teacher also. I'm from Brazil and I really like your classes. Thank you so much for teaching us. Let's see. All right. You're pretty close to fluency then. Just keep practicing and get involved with native speakers as much as possible. Yeah, I like to be very specific and give like really specific advice to people about how to learn. Because if you just say like, keep practicing, or like spend time with natives, it's like, it's not really a specific enough, really good point that someone could learn like, okay, what's a specific thing I can do to do this? And so the specific thing is really moving up through these and getting many more examples of the vocabulary that you're not feeling very confident about. All right, let's see. Malud. All right, I think I answered that already. You're spamming the comments though. Stop. Just answer your spam. Post your comment one time. So I understand native properly and accurately, but I don't feel like speaking with them because I'm afraid of being stuck. What can I do to figure this issue out? So John, your problem is exactly this. So you understand, but you're just not getting enough naturally varied review, and that's why you're getting stuck. So you don't feel confident enough about the language, and that could be the vocabulary or the grammar, pronunciation, anything else. You're just like you're learning maybe one phrase or one word, and you're only hearing it a few times. But if you really spend a lot of time learning a particular word or phrase, that's where you get to that level. So you will feel much more confident about using the language. You will get to that ownership level, and you know how that works. Like you can feel it when it happens. All right. So I started to learn connected speech with music of Madonna and Frozen. Yeah. So I can't understand native speakers. Yes. So again, I'm trying to give you like exposure and awareness, and then take you to the ownership level just by giving you simple explanations of things and lots of naturally varied review. But if you try to go directly to the native level, it's going to be much more difficult for you. All right. Let's see. At what stage can we come to thinking in English? Well, that's really like this is, you can think of it as like a continuum. So it's a scale. So you go from 0 to 1, and then 1 to 2, and then 2 to 3. And that's how we're improving our ability to think in English as well. But the point is to understand the language like a native rather than trying to think about it like, you know, in the ESL way where you're translating or thinking about rules when you speak. So I'm not a fan of Duolingo. Yeah, so again, you should be getting like real, like actual examples of stuff. And so the more real examples you can get of the language and naturally varied review. And again, it's really important that you learn like a native. So natives get more than one example. So you might learn, if you remember how you learned your native language, you heard your mother and your father and your friends and your teachers and all these different people often saying the same thing. And so because you're getting all of that input, it's the naturally varied review that gets you fluent. And so once you feel very confident about using something, then you use it, okay? And what often you try to do in an English as a second language class is you're trying to just repeat things before you really understand what they are. And so people, that's why they struggle. And the teacher says like, okay, repeat after me. Like, and I want you to say something. But I notice this even, you know, when I'm teaching my own kids. If they don't really understand what I'm saying, then they can not yet feel confident about using something. They can try to repeat what I'm saying, but it's really my fault for not having to understand that. So what is your recommendation to get more vocabulary? Okay, so Giovanni, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. The point here, number one, is not to try to just learn more vocabulary. The point is to increase the ownership level of the vocabulary you already have. And then you can start learning more. So it's about spending more time and really understanding the particular vocabulary you already know rather than just trying to learn more words and phrases. But whatever you're learning, you really should be going through these steps for all of that information. So you understand something very well, and that's how you're able to use it fluently. Hopefully that makes sense. So the goal, you don't become fluent by learning more. All right. I just sent out an email to subscribers yesterday or 2 days ago talking about this. But a lot of students, they mistakenly believe that you get fluent by learning more. But you don't get fluent by learning more. You get fluent by understanding the information you already have. And this is why children can speak fluently even though they don't know a lot of words. Okay. So it's really important to remember that. If you look at little kids, they have a smaller vocabulary than adults. But they can often speak better than adults because they know that vocabulary so well. They're at the ownership level of that vocabulary. Let's see. Uzmanov says, why are you teaching on YouTube rarely? If you look at the YouTube channel, you'll see videos up here like almost every week lately. Again, you're just not seeing them. Maybe you're not getting notified by YouTube about the videos being released. But if you go to the YouTube channel, you can go back and watch the recent live videos like this. I remember all the phrasal verbs I learned with your videos. Any topic to create new videos on that topic. Rainier says, yeah, well, I'm glad you enjoyed those. So if you've already gone through the visual guide to phrasal verbs, then I would go up to Fluent for Life. So Fluent for Life has like hundreds and hundreds of phrasal verbs in it. And so you learn all of those, not just phrasal verbs, but the whole language. I take you to the ownership level of that. If you'd like to learn more about that, you can click on the link in the description below this video. Hello from Venezuela, says Tulio. What is your, okay, I think I passed that already. The point is that I can understand more and easily than I can speak. Also, sometimes it's difficult to understand some accents, especially from the South. Yes, so this is, again, this is why, like, you move up through this process and you always get recognition before you get ownership. So that's why you can understand more than you can speak. So if you have to move up to that level, and you move up to that level by getting many more examples of that thing. Is it wrong way learning a language with a book and a waste of time? No, I didn't mean that like books are a bad thing for learning languages. I meant like if you're trying to learn a language with only a book. All right. Again, you need lots of different examples. You will get language. So right now I'm reading like a Japanese cartoon. or a manga. It's like a Japanese comic book. And so in that, I'm getting lots of naturally varied review, but I'm also hearing those same things from TV shows or other people speaking, that kind of thing. So it's not about like reading one book is going to get me fluent, because I need to hear examples of that. And the spoken language is much different many times than the way people are in conversations in a book even. I remember that at a call center, they told me that I have some issues organizing my ideas. Yeah, so that's another thing. You get much faster at organizing ideas and thinking like a native as you go through this process. Let's see. So I've been working in a call center for more than 3 years, and I'm still having issues to communicate and pronounce a bunch of words. How can I improve it? It's about spending more time with the vocabulary you need to use. Now, I imagine at a call center, there is probably some vocabulary that you use more than others. So I would spend more time really listening to that vocabulary, getting examples of that, whatever that vocabulary is. I don't know what that is. Maybe you have specific things for products or company or whatever you have to speak for that. But if you watch, like, let's say a bunch of YouTube videos about customer service, you will get lots of naturally varied review for that specific purpose. So you will see lots of people, like how they check in at a hotel or how they order food at a restaurant, that kind of thing. So the point is really to get more naturally varied review. That's how you move from awareness to ownership. I have the same problem with my dog. We both can understand but don't speak. Very good, Tulio. Yes, actually, dogs are pretty sharp. You know, they can understand quite well, really. So let's see. All right, so people still saying, like, I need to practice. I want to make it clear. Practice is not getting you fluent. I didn't write anything up here about practice. There's nothing here about practice. This is about understanding like a native, okay? And this should be exciting. I don't know who out there wants to try to spend time practicing the language. I mean, wouldn't you rather just understand like a native and start using the language? I would. When I'm thinking about, learning Japanese, I don't want to, like, okay, I'm going to practice the language, try to repeat phrases to myself. I'm not doing any of that. I'm going to get more examples until I really understand something. And then I get that aha moment. It's like, something clicks in my mind. I really feel confident about something, and now I can use it fluently. Yes, friends, don't forget to like the video. This is a quick psychology thing you should tell people. Remember to like the video. If you say don't forget to do something, people will think about forgetting. Hello there, Drew. Could I ask something? What do you think about listening and speaking are like brother and sister? Well, yeah, I mean, it's two parts of the same system. But the listening is really what builds the speaking ability. So you don't get fluent by speaking. Speaking is a result of how you learn. Okay? So it's not like, I wouldn't even say they're like brother and sister. It's more like speaking is the child of listening, if that makes sense. So speaking is the child of listening. Brother and sister kind of implies you do both of them at the same time, when really it's just like, until you understand something, you will not feel confident using it, all right? So you really should focus on understanding, and then the speech just comes automatically. Let's see, anonymous. Okay. So sometimes my concentration going out when I remain in listening, after that automatically come back. Does it working or not? My increase. I think I understand what you're saying. All right. Usually what people are doing, let me clear this up a little bit. So hopefully you remember these. I can put them up later if you need them. So why is it so difficult to go from the awareness level to the ownership level? All right, so why do so many people get stuck? I've tried to explain it, but I really want to make this clear. All right, so here's the ESL, so English as a second language. English as a second language approach, and we'll put EFL. What I do, this is English as a first language over here. All right, I want to make this very clear. English as a second language, usually you begin by learning a word or phrase. So imagine, I don't know, like, how are you? All right, so you hear a phrase like, how are you? And then you try to hear that over and over and over and over and over again. All right. Now, there are two big problems with this approach. Number one, it's boring to your mind. Each time you hear this, your mind is less interested. So you hear it again, Your mind is like, like again? I don't want to listen to this again and again and again and again. So you think like listening practice, this is what people normally think of as listening practice, where it's like just repeating something again and again is listening practice. All right? So that's the first big problem. The second big problem is that in a real conversation, you might hear lots of different things and might not hear this thing at all. Okay? So I might learn in an English classroom, how are you? So that's my target vocabulary. How are you? And my teacher tells me, okay, Drew, I want you to listen to this audio and it will repeat, how are you? How are you? How are you? And then my teacher wants me to repeat that. How are you? How are you? How are you? And each time I'm repeating that, my brain is getting a little bit more more bored, less interested, because your mind is naturally interested in new information. Okay, it always wants something new. And each time you hear the same thing again, you think, oh, I know this already. I already know how are you. Okay, so you get to the level of exposure and you get to the level of awareness, but you don't get to the level of ownership because you're not really understanding this, like this phrase here, like how are you? Because in a real conversation, you're going to hear lots of different things for a greeting like this. You might hear what's up, hey, how's it going, how you been, what have you been up to? Lots of different examples like that, okay? And so that's the ESL approach. And this is why people get stuck. So they get exposed to something, the teacher tells them some information, some word or phrase or something very clearly, and then they go up through these different levels here. And but it's really not getting them anywhere. So they think they're like, okay, I'm practicing by repeating that same phrase again and again, but actually they're just staying in the same place. Okay? It looks like you're doing something, but you're not. Okay? It looks like it. Hey, I'm spending time repeating this. I should be getting fluent, but you're not. The real truth, the actual thing that's happening is that you're making your brain bored and you're not getting prepared for a bunch of different situations or a bunch of different phrases in a real conversation. So what's the difference here? So this is why you get stuck, like you get to like exposure. We'll put an X here for exposure, and you got awareness. Awareness means like if someone else says, how are you? You can really understand that. But you might not feel confident using it. Maybe you don't know about how, or you confuse like basic grammar rules, something like that, where you're worried about pronunciation. So there are lots of reasons why you would not get to the ownership level of that. So you get stuck here. Okay? Now going to the EFL approach, what do we do here? We're looking first at situations like a greeting. And so what I want to do as a teacher, as a guide, I want to help you just the same way I help my own children learn, is I'm going to begin with, like right now we're learning different greetings. So ways that people say hello. How do they greet each other? So I'm going to teach you lots of different phrases. And you're not only going to hear different phrases, you're going to hear like different speakers. You're going to hear different accents, different speeds. And because you get all of this, you automatically move from exposure to awareness to ownership. Okay? So the point here is like you want to be prepared for real situations, because that's how conversations work. In like a regular conversation, you don't know what people are going to say. So there is a general idea, people will probably say that, but you will usually not be prepared for the different accents or the different speeds or the slightly different vocabulary that people might be using. So it's a completely different approach. All right? What's cracking? Yep. So another thing, like someone might, that's not really a business term. So you probably would not hear that, in an office or something, but casually someone might say, hey, what's cracking? What's cracking? What's new? What's going on? What's happening? And so they'll say it quickly. You might have an accent or a different dialect there. Pronunciation might even be a little bit different. And the vocabulary will be different as well. So it's a completely different way of learning. But with this way, you very quickly move from exposure to awareness to ownership. But for this way over here, you get stuck at this level. And that's why so many people who are learning English as a second language, they get to ownership, or they get to awareness, and so they can understand me, they can understand movies, or talking about like TED Talks or whatever, but they struggle in real conversations because they're just not prepared for that. All right, you have to be prepared for real life. You have to learn for real life in that way. All right, let me go back and make sure we got all that, but hopefully this makes sense. Yeah, so that idea about how to overcome like getting more concentration or whatever, like this is you don't have to worry about concentration. Your mind will naturally be interested in this because it's a bunch of new information all the time. Okay, so this way it's the same thing, which makes you naturally bored. Your mind is bored by that information. That's why people hate studying, because studying means repeating the same stuff over and over again. But you don't really get tired of studying, like learning. You don't get tired of learning in your native language because you're getting new information all the time. It's like a different speaker saying something, or a different accent, or different, like slightly different vocabulary. Okay, so you don't have to worry about like feeling bored. Feeling bored is the whole point of the ESL approach. It's just like trying to make you practice things that you don't really understand. So should I keep thinking about the rules and try to learn new things when listening to others, or should I just focus on the content? I don't quite understand what that's asking for. But the basic idea is that until you really understand something, whatever that is, it could be pronunciation, grammar, vocabulary, until you really understand something, you will not feel confident using it, all right? So you don't build confidence by repetition. You don't build confidence through speaking. You build confidence through really understanding something very well. So when you understand something very well, like the way natives do, then you can use it like a native. Do you agree, John asks, with the nurture mature exposure? Some teachers tend to nurture mature exposure. I don't know what that means specifically, but this is basically what I'm describing here is how natives learn languages. This is how you learned your native language, and the great news is that you can do the same thing for learning English. That's it. So instead of trying to do the boring way, you get the actual native input and the naturally varied review that gets you fluent automatically. Let's see. Thanks so much for your advice. It gave me a different point of view, and now I know what to do. Glad to hear it, says Adrian. Hello from Canada. Oh, poor dog. Let's see. Hi from India. Hello from Argentina. Isla said, yes, I changed my habit of just translating what I wanted to say because it's not a natural, common way to say it as it is in a regular conversation, I'm guessing. What's up? How you been? Let's see. Hello, everyone. How are things? Okay, the thing went through all those. I thought about asking you, shouldn't you be actually working? And then I remembered that your dad was a great philosopher. Are you talking about me? I don't know if that's talking about me. I wouldn't say my dad is a great philosopher, but I came now and I'm very confused. I don't understand any of those scribbles the teacher did on the board. LOL, LOL. All right, so the basic idea is that if you understand something, you can speak. That's the basis of everything I teach. So if you understand something, you can teach very well. If you don't understand, then you can't speak. All right? So you don't get fluent by repeating information again and again. You get fluent by really understanding what you learn. And the only way to do that is to get lots of different examples until you really feel that you're understanding something very well. All right. Thanks a lot. I understand now how to learn a language. Is a question how to always be motivated. Well, the ESL way requires motivation. This way does not. Do you feel you need to be motivated to learn your native language? Do you need motivation for that? It's like every day you just do it automatically. You do it naturally. And so this way requires motivation because you don't want to do it. That's why people ask, like how do I stay motivated to learn? It's like if you need to be motivated to learn, you are learning the wrong way, okay? You don't need to be motivated when you're learning this way because it's just interesting and you're improving all the time, okay? So that's the difference. I mean, there are many big differences here, but this idea about motivation, I talk about that with students, and like how to stay motivated is like keep the information new and keep the information fresh. And this means learning about a situation, like a greeting or something, and then you're getting lots of different examples, and then you're hearing them from different people and at different speeds. All right, so as you're getting all of these different examples, it's improving your understanding till you get to the ownership level of understanding the vocabulary or the grammar or the pronunciation, and that's when you can use it fluently. All right, so hopefully, let's see, thanks so much, sir, for I need to keep up new things from my listening. There are some schools teach English the way you are. There are some schools teach English the way you were talking about. Yeah, I'm sure there are. I've never heard of any, but I'm sure somebody must be doing it this way, and I've been teaching this way for 20 years. So I'm sure somebody else has to be teaching this way. Now remember, the point is to get to the level of understanding where you don't have to speak to do that. The point is to understand the language very well. So if you want to get lots of good input, whatever your thing is, as an example, if you want to learn more about, talking about gardens. So I speak about gardens. I learned gardening. That's why I came to Japan. And so I got lots of information from different places about gardening. And I would listen to different people talk about that, all in Japanese. And because I did that, I got fluent in talking about that kind of vocabulary. Okay? So I'm not fluent talking about nuclear physics in Japanese, or English, really. So I couldn't explain how nuclear physics works in English. And it's not because I'm stupid or because I can't learn the vocabulary. I just don't know it. I don't have that, even the basic level of understanding for that. So I'm not familiar with like the vocabulary that you need or the processes. I could probably learn them, but this shows you that you can be fluent in some things and not fluent in others. So there's some things you can speak about because you know them really well, and other things that you can't. But you don't get fluent by just trying to repeat various vocabulary over and over again. Okay? That's going to make you bored, demotivated, and then you will be frustrated when you were in a conversation and you hear other people saying stuff that you weren't prepared for. Okay? So if you want to become a fluent speaker, stop trying to speak and just get lots of great input. So if I want to learn about learning, let's say like fixing cars or something. That's another example I'll give. So I could go right here on YouTube and watch 10 different videos about people fixing a car engine. And I'm going to hear lots of different people talk about some of the same vocabulary, and there will also be some different vocabulary as well. But I'll hear their different accents, and soon it's like, I'm really starting to understand this. I'm really getting to the ownership level, and it will click for you in your mind when you really understand something. And that's where you will feel very confident using it. So if you hear 10 different native speakers say something one way, then you should probably say it that same way. That's how you get the pronunciation. All right. But if you only listen to one person, like, if here I am in Japan and lots of my, or not even my personal students, just lots of young kids that are learning English in Japanese school, it'll be a Japanese teacher who doesn't have like a perfect natural accent. And so they're teaching kids, and that's like their only source of learning English. Maybe they watch some movies or something on TV, but they're not really getting very much of the naturally varied review that they need to become fluent, or that they need to develop a natural accent. But you don't need to speak to do this. This process is not about developing fluency through speech. You develop fluency through understanding. All right? Now, hopefully this is exciting. Is this exciting for people? Hopefully it is. So for me personally, I don't want to spend time trying to go out and meet people to practice speaking with, or try to go online or do that. I don't care about doing that. I don't have time for doing that. I just want to spend some time being very efficient with my learning. So I want to learn some new phrases or whatever, and just spend time until I really understand those, and then I can use them. So again, fluency and speech, that's the result of understanding. You don't begin by repeating phrases. You end by being able to just use the vocabulary automatically. All right. And let's see if I missed anybody. Oh my God, I'm late for this wonderful teaching. I miss a lot, I guess. Well, you can easily go back and watch the video again after it's finished. Does easy English teach your way? I don't know what that is. Yes, these are very technical words in every field. Yes. Let me sleep, please. It's almost 3 a.m. Yes, go ahead. Go to sleep. All right. You're the best professor teaching online. Now, remember, I am not a professor. I don't have an advanced degree in, I don't have a master's in any particular teaching, like teaching English as a second language or whatever. All I know is what I've done personally as a learner and as a teacher, and now as a parent, also teaching 2 different languages to my own kids. All right. So that's enough for me. I don't need like a fancy degree, and most of the people who have fancy degrees are doing this. So they're trying to teach you a bunch of rules and not really help you understand the rule like a native. Okay? So I think I gave some examples before. You've probably seen my basic Japanese example here. Just, I don't know if anybody speaks Japanese on this particular chat, but if I can give you a very simple explanation in Japanese, I can teach you Japanese. All right? So the point is to make the language understandable for you. Maka, maka, maka. Ao, aoi maka. Kuro, kuroi maka. Aka, akai maka. Aka, kuro, ao. Aka, kuro, ao. Now you understood what I'm talking about there. Even if you don't quite remember it, I'm just exposing you to the language. And I want to get you to awareness where you really start to recognize and you understand what I'm talking about. And then I can get you to the ownership where you really feel confident because you've heard so many examples. Okay? All right. Let's see here. You are not a professor, you are a philosopher. Yes, a good professor without degree. All right. Is it bad when I always compare English expressions with the words in my native language? Yes. So if you're still trying to translate in your head, it means you just don't feel confident enough. You don't understand the vocabulary. Now, some people are just interested in that. Like I will notice similarities or differences between English and Japanese. And so I might notice something like, oh, like that's interesting, like aoi maka. Blue marker. So the adjective comes before the noun in English. But I recognize that, but I'm not trying to think about the language. I just notice it's similar. Okay? So this is not about trying to translate. The point is to understand something very well all in English. When you do that, that's when you speak. So everybody watching this, hopefully your goal is speech. That's what I focus on. So it's not about just like teaching you a bunch of words and then you can't use them. That would be kind of sad for me. There are lots of videos like that on YouTube though. And I certainly do teach lots of vocabulary. I think Fluent for Life has like 13,000 expressions and phrases and things in it. It's like a crazy amount of information in Fluent for Life. But how I help you learn it is the important thing. Because I want to take you through these steps to get you to ownership where you feel very confident about using the vocabulary. That's why you're going to hear it from different people in different ways at different speeds, etc. Off topic, but have you heard of subliminals before? Like subliminal learning or subliminal messages? Especially the ones that help you pick up a language while you sleep. Sam Walton is back. Nice to see you. Yes, of course, I've heard of sleep learning or whatever. I don't have any experience of that. I think people do. It's because the ESL way is so bad. It's so frustrating and it takes so long and so few people actually go through this process and become fluent that you have all this other like tricky stuff about how to learn languages. Okay, like just learn while you sleep. It's like, okay, like let me see if I can go to sleep and wake up, whatever. It's like I can teach you while you're awake. I mean, maybe you don't have any time to do that, but like think about how you are learning your native language. Every day you are learning new words and phrases or new ways of expressing things in your native language, and you're learning them from newspapers or movies or books or TV shows or podcasts or whatever, and it's just you getting naturally varied review. You're interested in the information because it's new, you're hearing it from different people in different ways, and you get to learn something. They just do the same thing for English. That's it. All right. See if I have any more before I lose my voice over here. Well, I think we've been going for, over an hour. Oh my goodness. I'm learning a lot watching your videos. Glad to hear it. Is it possible to learn English as you are explaining watching movies or listening to music? Yes. So it's like you can learn English from lots of different ways. You know, you could listen to music or watch movies or TV shows. The point is, how well do you understand that? If you only get to the exposure or awareness level, then you will hear things, you will recognize them when people say them, but you will have trouble using that information. So the point is to understand it well enough that you can use it. That's where we get to the fluent level. That's why I call it ownership, because you own the language. It's yours. It's not like a second language. It's your language. So Japanese is my language now, and I don't know all the words. It's not necessary to know them, but like the things that I use, I own that vocabulary. It's like my first language. That's why it's just learning English as a first language. I hope to download your app next month. Yes, Dustin. So we have two different apps if you are not familiar already. So there's the regular app that we have for the video courses, and so you can get that whenever you join. So Fluent for Life or the Native Fluency Blueprint, but also Frederick. So Frederick is free to download and try, and this is our ultimate pronunciation and listening app, and so it gives you all of this. So we're going to give you lots of different input. We're going to teach it to you in different ways, and then you actually get to play the game and discover the rules for yourself. So rather than someone teaching you pronunciation rules, I actually just take you through the app. Well, basically you take yourself through it. So it's the world's first way for anyone, like if you have young kids, they want to play through the app as well. So you want to teach them the basics of pronunciation, vocabulary, listening, and grammar. All of that it's all one thing in that system in Frederick. So you can join that whenever you like. So how can we speak English with how we can speak? So how can we speak English using linking sounds? Linking sounds. You mean like the way sounds blend together? Frederick will teach you how to do that. It will teach you the individual sound rules of the language, and it will show you how to blend them together automatically. All right. You are a philosopher because your wife keeps asking you to get a job, and then you think about your answer was why. Now, this is somebody either who knows me very well or knows that reference from, what is that, Family Guy? I'll tell that quick story because that's something actually I like to tell people a lot. I don't know if I've mentioned that on the chat before any time in my videos. But so this is Peter Griffin. He is the main kind of Homer Simpson character of Family Guy. It's just like a cartoon about his family. But you can find this clip on YouTube about, if you look up like Peter Griffin philosopher, you will see it. And so Peter Griffin's like, my great-grandfather was a great philosopher. And I can't do the Peter Griffin voice perfectly, but that's basically what he's saying. And his wife, they show him like many years ago, he's sitting back relaxing in a chair, and his wife is like, you know, she's holding a baby and trying to clean up the house or whatever. And she said, "Why don't you get a job?" And he looks up and he says, "Why?" That's my philosopher joke. But yes, that's exactly that Family Mart reference, or Family Guy. Family Mart is a convenience store in Japan. All right, GG Rock, thank you, very good. I'm glad to hear it. Sir, please recommend us some English learning or listening YouTube channel, not without you. Not without me. You mean with like, not without me? You mean with me? If you want like, what I do in all this stuff I've explained, this is in Fluent for Life. I'll put this up here. And you can learn more about that by clicking on the link in the description. But you can go through this process by yourself, as I just explained. So if I'm trying to learn more about whatever the topic, if I want to learn more about Family Guy, as an example, or philosophers, or gardening, or baking cakes, or roller skating, or planting trees, or anything, I would look that up in English on YouTube, and I would watch a bunch of videos about that same topic. And like if I'm trying to learn a different language, I would learn a lot about how to do that thing in that language. It'd be very easy to do. That's what this is. So you're hearing about a topic, hearing lots of different examples from different people. Okay? All I've done in Fluent for Life is make this like a very simple standard process that you can go through and the topics are already done. So this is for people who want to get fluent as fast as possible. So if you go through this, you get fluent in that vocabulary for each lesson set in 30 days or less. I prefer watching your videos, not without you. Okay. Well, I mean, I've got a bunch of videos on YouTube that you can watch those, or again, you can join Fluent for Life or any of my other programs, and you will see that. Jonathan Paz, you skipped my comment. I probably skipped a bunch of comments here. I don't know if I'm going through all of them. You can post it again if you like. Sorry, I'm already accumulate enormous English influential, but how can I flow them and where? Yeah, so I can tell by looking at the grammar errors and the spelling errors in your English that you went past like the basics of stuff that you're trying to learn, and you're trying to learn more difficult words, but you can't use them correctly. So this is a perfect example of students trying to learn more, but not be able to use any of that information correctly. Okay. So spend more time with the like a smaller amount of vocabulary. Learn those things well, and as you get fluent in that vocabulary, it will help you understand lots of more things, and that's really how you become fluent like a native. This is how you got fluent in your native language. Just do the same thing for English. All right? Does anybody have a reason why this would not work? Does anyone disagree with me? I'm happy if anybody does. If they have like a reason like, nah, Drew, this wouldn't work. It's like, okay, let me know. The best way to flow is heavy flow. That's right. Do. Do. Please show your appreciation by liking the video. Yes, thank you very much. I prefer, okay, I think I got everybody. Hopefully. Yes. So we'll leave it on the heavy flow mark over there. Anderson, nice to see you there from Brazil. I'd like to go down to Brazil at some point. But if anybody has any last questions, let me know. But I really want to make it clear, if you learn this way, you will get fluent. If you continue to learn this way, you will continue to struggle. All right? I'm a big fan of you. Glad to hear it. Anybody have any questions? Any arguments against learning like this? Who thinks they should continue learning English as a second language rather than learning as a first language? Anyone agree? My favorite album. Nice. Wait, is that Florian? Florian, is that you? I think that is your, that's right. That is you, man. Give me a call, man. You should be working right now. What are you doing? You should be working right now. Yes, I think I remember that. Yeah, that's like, it's been a long time, I think, since you posted anything on your YouTube channel. But make sure I'm correct. All right, fantastic. Yeah, let me know if you have any questions. So this is probably a friend of mine. He will sometimes ask me questions about English. But he's a native speaker also. All right, let's see. So someday, which I speak the sound like your accent. Yes, if you watch enough of my videos, and also if you get Frederick, you will start sounding like me. My dream is to have the whole world sounding like me. That would be very funny. No, I actually don't want that. But I think it would be interesting if a whole bunch of people started learning like my way and then like all just started sounding exactly like me. Please don't do that though. Remember, the point is to learn to get lots of different examples of different speakers. The point is to have diversity in your learning, because you will experience diversity in your conversations. All right? The learning should be like the real life experience. Okay. All right, people keep coming back with more. You guys won't let me leave. Why? Why? All right, English language, I have just difficulties with reading and writing, so I use speech to text. Yes, so if you want to cheat that way, it's okay. If you don't need to, communicate or have a conversation with people or whatever, then if you just need to get information, then do, speech to text, or you're just reading whatever. But if you actually need to speak, the important thing is speaking. This is how you can do it. Why? Where are you from, Chicago or San Francisco? I'm from Chicago. I've been in San Francisco a little bit, though. Do you think being in my 40s will affect my learning and the opportunity to get a job in English? I would say no to either of those. So I am 42 years old. And remember, you are continuing to learn things in your native language right now. So it's not like you turn 40 and you stop learning. You just learn different stuff. You know, you're not learning basic math anymore. You learn new things. And so you're learning new things all the time in your native language, and you can do the same thing in English. All right, you helped me a lot, says Julio. Glad to hear it. Let's see. So I listen to a lot of video in English now, and I can understand without subtitling and translate in my language. Very good. So the more, again, you want to go from the awareness level to the ownership level, that's where you really start getting lots of varied examples, and make sure you focus on something till you understand it very well. Do you prefer British or American English? For me, I don't know if that's asking me or not. I don't have like a preference for one or the other. I try to listen to both because, again, I will hear and meet people from all over the world. So I will speak with Australians, New Zealanders, Canadians who are quite similar to American speakers. But again, when I'm teaching people, like in Fluent for Life, we give you access to all these different speakers. So you're going to listen to examples of British English, American English, even people who are like, just like we have like one woman who grew up in Zimbabwe. So she is a native English speaker, but she has a different accent as well because of where she grew up. I've scored band 8 in IELTS. Glad to hear it. I guess that the younger you are, the less stuck you get learning English. No, I wouldn't say that's true at all. I mean, unless you're like 90 years old and you just can't think, kind of like Joe Biden. You know, he's like, I don't know if Joe Biden is learning anything right now. You know, he's getting pretty old. But yes, if you are 40 years old, you should be just fine for learning anything. So learning new languages, whatever. It's just about how you learn. If you try to learn, the ESL approach gets more and more difficult as you get older because it's so boring. But you always are continuing to learn this way because this is how your mind naturally likes to learn. All right. Well, Brazil here, kisses, glad to hear it. Thank you very much. Oh my God, you helped me a lot. All right. How to remember words I can't practice naturally, some words in X conversation. Yes, again, it's not about practicing vocabulary, it's about understanding the vocabulary really well. So you don't need to repeat things and hope that you get fluent by repeating things over and over again. That's not how you get fluent. You get fluent by understanding the language really well. Okay? So as you get more and more understanding, you feel more and more confident about that, that's where you start to speak. So don't try to force yourself to speak about things that you're not confident about. And that's how and again, this same process works for everything. It's how you remember vocabulary, how you improve your grammar, your pronunciation, your listening, all that stuff develops automatically as you learn that way. So you don't have to force yourself to do anything. I managed to change my girlfriend when I was 17, speaking of subliminal messages. Let's go, Brandon. Look at that. Let's go, Brandon. See, we got some maybe not some big Biden fans in the audience here. Are you still in Japan? Yes, I'm in Japan. I'm in Nagasaki right now. Come say hello. Could you give a couple more examples in real life, not only in class, how to learn English as a first language? So right now, this video is an example of how to learn English as a first language. All right, I gave this example a little bit earlier in the chat or in the video. But you tell me, if you have a particular word or phrase that you don't understand, I can help you understand it like a native. So why don't we do it that way? So if you have a question, I'll give my memory example, though, because this is one of my favorites about understanding something. If you've seen this example before, you've probably been learning with me for a while, but I think you will enjoy this if you are new. So just to give you an example of like how understanding works and the aha moment. The aha moment. The aha moment is something you feel, you can physically feel it happening when you understand something. You're like, I got it. Okay, so let me give you an example. I've done this before. If you have seen this before already, Don't spoil it for other people, because this is always fun for new people when they're learning something new. So we begin a normal English lesson. Well, we won't even say English. So this is learning a different language. I'm going to teach you an alien language right now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you already know these. These are Arabic numerals, and we're going to teach you a new language. What usually happens in a language learning class is people will give you a translation. So I'm going to give you a translation right now, and I want you to memorize these. Are the teachings in Fluent for Life the same as those posted on YouTube? I think there are like maybe 10 example videos, but there are over 500 video and audio lessons in Fluent for Life. So you get like less than 1% is on YouTube. So we do have some samples, but you get the complete system in Fluent for Life. Nobody has access to that on YouTube. All right, so let me give you this very quick lesson here. All right, I want you to take the next minute and try to remember those. I want you to memorize this. Now, this is an example of bad teaching, but I think it's important so you can understand the difference between learning as a first language and learning as a second language. But really, this is about getting that aha moment when you learn. All right? We've got a couple more seconds. I'll check chat while people are looking at that. Let's see. Oh, no, from Japan. I'm tired of studying English. Yes, that's because of how you're learning it. You're probably not tired of learning Japanese, even though you've been learning it all your life. All right, now I'm going to erase this. Now I'm going to give you some characters here. I want you to translate this. Can you just write what that is in the chat? So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 characters. Just write down the numbers of those in the chat if you remember what they are. All right. So remember, this is an example of a bad lesson. So if you can't do it, it's okay. That's kind of the point of the lesson. All right, let's see here. I learned kick the bucket from you. Let's grab some grub from you, actually. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so if it's entertaining for you, it just means your brain is active and it's trying to like solve a puzzle, kind of like what this is up here. Indeed, the method used in ESL is too boring. Yeah. Could you please make a video about how to master or use Frederick? Khalid, yes, if you go to our channel, you can find videos on Frederick. I think, just search our channel in Frederick, and you should. I think it's like the ultimate pronunciation system or something like that. I forget the name of it. All right. Let's see if we have any chat here. Is it bad for English learner to learn British or American? Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's fine to learn both. I've learned, okay, we got that. Are the teachings of, okay, I got that. How many languages do I speak? Japanese and English. The aha moment is when you take on me. That's right. Heavy flow days, baby. All right, let's see. Things I will definitely take Fluent for Life. Yes, we hope to welcome you to the program. Americans like to use ain't, and even in your videos, maybe it's something you use without thinking, but nobody teaches that. Yes, exactly. So if you're in a conversation, you will hear you'll hear incorrect English all the time. And so if you're not prepared for that because you didn't spend time with real English, then of course you're not going to be you're going to have trouble with that. So I don't remember anything. Oh, I don't get the symbols, meanings. I actually learned by exposure. I've consumed so much English content. Yes, so again, you're learning it by exposure. How much does one need to have the whole tools? For what? The first and last number is 1. All right. Very good. Somebody got one of them. Very good. All right, let's see if we can figure out the rest of these. Let's see, this is going to be, if I remember, is going to be that, and 6. All right, now, I gave you like a bad lesson. I call this a bad language learning lesson because this is what most people do. This is the second language approach where we're going to try to translate a bunch of things And there's nothing where you feel any kind of aha, like you understood anything. All right. So let me put these examples back up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I'll put my examples up here again. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right. Now here's how this gets interesting. I really want you to have an aha moment, and this is just one example of this, but you will notice this all the time when you learn, when you really understand something. All right, you ready for this? This is the aha moment, especially if you've not seen this before. Here we go. One, 2, 3. You get it? Did you feel that? Now, if this is brand new to you, you should be like, I got me, like, okay? This is the point of an aha moment where you really understand something. And now, understanding this, you could go on and translate a bunch. I could give you 1,000 of these characters and you could understand them, all right? So the point of this is the aha moment. You should feel that when you're learning, and until you feel this, you have not really understood. All right, so now it's like, I get it, now it makes more sense, okay? So this is just one way I'm helping you with a visual mnemonic, a visual memory aid for this. But the point of this is that when you learn the right way, you actually understand something, so you really feel like, it's something you understand like a native. So this is different from understanding something intellectually or understanding like a translation. You really know it, it's like, I know that now. And now you will never forget this example. You had the aha moment, you will not forget this example. Try it on your friends and they will have some fun. All right, let's see here. Any final questions over here? How much does one need to, I think I answered, or maybe did not answer that. So awesome. Okay, people got by tools, I mean your learning materials like Fluent for Life, Frederick. So Fluent for Life works with Frederick. Fluent for Life gives you everything you need, but we recommend people get Frederick as well because this is focusing specifically on the rules of pronunciation, and it takes you through all of those like a native. Again, we want to give you more naturally varied review, so you're going to get lots of that through Fluent for Life. But when you play with Frederick, if you've not played with it already, you'll have a lot of fun with it as well. It's a game that lets you discover the language by yourself. All right, the aha moment and later a headache. All right, I think that's it. That's enough for me. I'm losing my voice. I've been speaking for an hour, I think. Oh my goodness, 90 minutes. 90 minutes. All right, but remember, I give a last. For the people coming at the very end and they say, Drew, what were you talking about? What was the point of this? So the point of this is, if we begin from 0, so you've never heard a word or phrase, you don't know anything about it, we move up to level 1. If you remember what this is, exposure, where you're just hearing something. Maybe this is even subliminal, like you didn't recognize it, you didn't hear it, you're not consciously aware of it. So we move up to awareness. When you really understand something very well, you can recognize it. But until you get to the ownership level, so this is level 3. So ownership meaning you can use something fluently. And to move from this level to this level, you just need to get lots of naturally varied review. This is really the only way you do it. It's the only way you feel comfortable about the language. So the more you learn, the more you will feel confident about using the language. And none of this is about speaking. You don't get fluent by repeating phrases or trying to say things or shadow people like that. You can do that maybe to get a little bit of help for pronunciation or listening. But the basic idea is really the biggest factor for your learning is how well you understand something. So your understanding and your confidence increase as you understand the language better. And that's how you develop speech. So speech is the result of getting to this level. If you've already been trying to speak and you're not fluent now, then it's just showing, it's proving that this works. Is it important to learn the phonetic characters? Yes. So you learn the sounds of English, and then you learn how the words blend together. Those are the two things you need for pronunciation and listening. So as an example, we begin with something simple like cat, k-at, cat. And then we put an E on the end of this, and now we have Kate, Kate. And so we learn, okay, if we have an E at the end of a word like this, then it changes the pronunciation of that sound. And native children in the United Kingdom, in America, Australia, they're all learning this way. So if you can learn this way too, you will become a fluent speaker. This is what we teach in Frederick. All right. Let's see. All right. Any final questions there? Is it Monday in Japan yet? Yes. So it is Monday. There is no easier than this explanation. Glad to hear. Tick-toe. Is it? Okay. Are you? Let's see. Are you telling students to stick around or give up and get to the chopper? Florian, I'm telling you to get to work. You should be working right now. You already speak English. What are you doing over here? Give me a call later. Get to the chopper. Yes, so it is. Yes, it is about 12, almost 11:30 here in Japan. Anonymous says, sir, every day I accumulate a lot of things in my brain, but I can't retain it long. All right, so this happens. Let me erase this. You'll notice I repeat myself a lot. But I try to say it in a different way because people need to, it's like it doesn't click in your mind until you get enough examples. So what most people do when they're learning, let me do this in red. Is this red working? Yeah, it's pretty good. All right, so what most people do when they're learning is they will learn a new vocabulary word, and then they will learn another new vocabulary word, and then another, and another, and another. But really, all of these are kind of staying at like, this. We'll just say this is like level 1, level 2, level 3. And so they get maybe like level 1, ooh, maybe they got like level 2 awareness for this one, level 2 awareness. And so they never really reach, instead of staying with one word and learning it up here, they just move on to the next word. And that's because, the reason people do this is because it's boring to learn it the traditional way. All right, so it's boring to just repeat that word or phrase again and again. So if I give you a listening exercise and it's just like, it's teaching you a new word like participate, 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 participate. If you just hear me and only me repeat the same thing over and over like a mantra, then of course you will find that boring and you would rather learn something new. And so you never reach this level of ownership over here. You're just, okay, let me get something new because it's more interesting for the brain to learn new information. So the way I overcome this problem is with naturally varied review. The point is to get lots of different varied examples until you feel very confident about that vocabulary. And remember that this process can happen very quickly. You can learn something in a minute or two. You go from 0 to fluent in that vocabulary, in a minute if you learn it and understand it very well. All right, so if you understand or you know a lot of vocabulary but you can't speak, it's because you're continuing to learn more without actually knowing that vocabulary very well. So you're basically wasting your time. You're building a passive vocabulary but not an active vocabulary. Uh-oh. All right, how many words an average a native speaker uses? I don't know. There are different estimates of this, but I will say this. If you just look at let's say the total number of words in the English language in active use, so somebody is using these, let's say it's like 170,000 words, okay, as an example. So I think it's around this number, but only, and this is even like small, but this is basically 2%. 2% of the language is used in everyday reading and writing. And if you know this 2%, then you can understand most books, TV shows, movies, that kind of thing. So you can not know all of this information out here. And young children, know even less. Young children might know like point, it's like 0.002% or something like that. But they still speak fluently, okay? They still speak fluently. So fluency is not about how much you know. It's not about like knowing all of this. Fluency is up here like this. It's how well you know the vocabulary. Okay? Hopefully this makes sense. I'm happy to explain it more, but really the basic idea, if you got ESL, if you learn English as a second language, that's like this down here. EFL is like this, where we really help you understand something. And as you get fluent, then like this, your ability to speak goes way up very quickly, because it's not boring, it's not frustrating. You're actually learning more, and you get this, the aha moment that you have, it makes your brain feel very good. That's what your brain really wants. So when you can discover something like, I get it, that feeling, well, that's really the greatest motivation of all. But that's how you learn your native language. And you're still doing that every day as you learn more words in your native language. All right, it looks like we're getting down to the end here. And hopefully I've answered everybody. But if you have any more questions, you can post them in the comments below this video, or to send us an email at info@englishanyone.com. But again, if you'd like to learn more, you can click on the link in the description, and that will explain a lot more about the fluent communication switch in your mind. And if you trigger that switch, that's what you get the aha moment for. That's how you speak. So it's really a very simple process. You can do it anywhere. You can do it by yourself, because you don't need to be speaking in order to do this. It's how well you understand the information. All right. Enrique says, thank you, and thank you for joining me. All right. I want to have another aha moment. Talk to your wife. Maybe she will give you an aha moment later at home. if you've been good today. All right, I'm going to call you in a second. You be good over there. Everyone else, have a fantastic day. Thank you for joining me. Remember, don't learn as a second language. Learn as a first language, and you will become the speaker you want to be. Bye-bye.